Supporting your local news, Airpark Canterbury, Logistics Drive and Parking Island off Rustley Road.
And James joins me now. G'day, thanks so much for your time.
Morning, Chris. Thanks for letting me on.
So tell me exactly, what does the South Island role mean, and when was it first kind of talked about with the Prime Minister?
Yeah, so the PM gave me a call the night before the announcement and let me know that he would like me to take on the role of Minister for the South Island. So that was when I was first introduced to the concept. I was really excited about it. We are going to sit down and figure out more about what the PM's exact priorities are, but already I know that the key things is my role is going to be a voice for the South Island in Wellington and around the cabinet table, but also to help Nicola Willis's economic growth agenda and to make sure that obviously the South Island is going to play a huge part of that. So what are the things that we can do in government to make sure that the South Island grows and plays as much a part of that as it can?
So it really was a short period, wasn't it, between the announcement and you finding out, so to speak. Is there anything specifically that sprung to mind when you were having that discussion with the Prime Minister where you thought, this is exactly what I need to do for some region of the South Island?
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is everything that I've dealt with over the past year as a local MP has been in and around transport resiliency and transport infrastructure. We've got big issues in mid-Canterbury. I need to get that second Ashburton Bridge. So I extrapolate that across the South Island and say transport is really important. If we're looking at growing the South Island, we need to be able to get our goods to market. We need to be able to get products and people around the island, and having the threat of the island being chopped in half by severe weather events or not having reliable air transport or shipping routes is going to hinder that. So that's one of my key focuses and key priorities in terms of making sure that we can grow the South Island.
Why has it always been the way, not just with National or with Labour, but it's always had that sense that the South Island's not necessarily been forgotten about, but it seems, actually no, it does seem forgotten about, particularly from Wellington's point of view. I just think of things like the pandemic when there was one case of COVID-19 in Auckland and all of a sudden Christchurch was in lockdown. There was this sense, there was a disconnect, even with transport projects today. What is it just a locale issue that we've always had to face?
Look, I think I grew up in the South Island. I'm a Crusaders supporter through and through, and I think now I'm going to have to be a de facto Highlander supporter as well. But it's always the case that we've been very parochial, and I think we've always felt a little bit distant from our bigger sister and brother cities in the north. But of course, Christchurch is the second largest city in the country, and it's a powerhouse for the South Island. So part of it might be our own views on whether or not we've been treated fairly, but also part of it is that we are fiercely independent down here, and we love being mainlanders, and we love to know that we just get on with the job. So I think we get a good amount of support from across the country. We punch above our weight, certainly when it comes to our tourism and our agricultural sectors. So I actually think we do okay, and I'm positive for the future of the South Island, and I think having this role means I can go out and spread some more of that positivity.
Is it something that you considered prior to Christopher Luxon calling you? Having this role as South Island Minister, so to speak? Well, not so to speak, that's the name of the role, isn't it?
Yeah, no, look, I think it'd be fair to say I hadn't really considered becoming a minister this early in my career at all. So to nail down the specifics of the South Island portfolio were a little surprising, but it makes sense. If you think about what Nicola Willis wants to do in the economic growth space, we're not going to have growth in New Zealand without growth in the South Island. So it makes sense to have a specific, positive, proactive focus, make sure that there's someone in the ministry whose job it is to go out, get around every part of the South Island and find out what it is that we need to do in government to make sure that we can support growth down here in the mainland. Because I come from Timaru, grew up in Timaru, and we haven't really grown much over the past 20, 30 years that I've been growing up here. And so my view is that in order to be a place where we want families to flourish and we want our kids and grandkids to come back when they've done a little bit of time in other cities and overseas, we've got to grow our region, we've got to have good jobs, we've got to have good recreation, great public services, and we've got to have a place that we can be proud of. And look, I know I call Timaru the Riviera of the South, but we can probably extend that metaphor to the whole of the South Island and make the Riviera of the South of New Zealand.
Just finally, because this portfolio sits outside of Cabinet, does that give you less influence over what can be achieved or not necessarily?
No, I don't think so, because I've got a mandate to work with other ministers in their portfolio areas about how their particular focuses impact the South Island. So if you take something like transport, for example, I've got an associate transport role, but I'll also be expected to work closely with Chris Bishop to make sure that the transport priorities are heard in Wellington from the South Island. I'll be working closely with the likes of the Canterbury Mayoral Forum to make sure that their priorities are well understood. And so just because I'm sitting outside Cabinet, it actually means that I don't sit in on the main Cabinet meetings, so I don't consider all the other business of government. But where something impacts directly on the South Island or has an effect on the South Island, the expectation is that I proactively go out and work with ministers to make sure that our voice is heard and that we get the best deal that we can from government decisions.
Well, I wish you well. Who knows? You might be the Prime Minister of the South Island. Maybe we'll cut off the North Island at some stage, James. Wouldn't that be good? Nice to see you. Thanks so much for your time. Good luck.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.